From WRAO News and the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, this is your coronavirus news brief for Friday, March 5th. I'm David Crabtree. Could it be a sign we're moving closer to normal? Or a warning we'll be dealing with the pandemic's aftermath for a while longer? There's a new position in the governor's office, the Director of North Carolina Pandemic Recovery. I spoke with the director, Lee Lilly, about the state's next steps. Let's start with this. Today, we know the state lawmakers have passed the $1.7 billion pandemic relief package. Talk to us about the importance of using those federal funds.
David, they're hugely important, and we appreciate the work the General Assembly did to get them to the executive branch so that we can go out and work with all of our partners throughout the state to deliver relief. And this is everything from K through 12 education relief to public health, more funds for testing and for vaccinations, to some pieces that we've got to keep working with them on to make them a little better in housing and rent relief. But these are all major federal initiatives that have come down from Washington back in December that we're now ready to put out into the economy and into the pockets of North Carolinians in need. So it's vital that we get that and get that moving right away. The General Assembly established the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office in our Office of State Budget and Management, and they've been on the leading edge of getting these funds out effectively and quickly, and they're going to continue to do that with this latest round of federal funds.
Okay, you're the director of that office, the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery. What's the job description?
Well, the job description for me is that I'm working directly under the governor to make sure that we have a equitable recovery, a long-term focus, not just on having the same old people who've been on top can succeed, but have everybody, whether you're in rural North Carolina, community of color, low-income communities, the communities that have borne the brunt of the COVID pandemic, both the public health emergency and the economic emergency, that everyone has an opportunity to take these dollars. You noted $1.7 billion that's going to be passed today or was passed today. We know that we've got another $5 billion in unreserved state cash that's available to be used to help people to get back on their feet and have the economy roar back, not just limp back like we've seen in some past recoveries. We also expect the federal government, with their latest package, the American Recovery Plan, which is currently moving through the U.S. Senate, has another potentially $5 billion in state relief that's coming our way. And that's more that we can use to make sure that this is a shared recovery and that it's a robust recovery. So my job...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. My job is going to be to make sure we have a plan for that it's executed, that it's implemented, but that we use the power of the governor's office to have new stakeholders have a seat at the table, and that when we see obstacles in state government to getting effective relief to people, that we can clear those obstacles and get them there quickly.
You know, just the same thing back with the recession of 2008 and 9. North Carolina has not fallen quite as deeply as some other states have economically. Do you think this recovery has a better chance of happening more quickly here than some of our neighboring states?
That's a great question. And the difference between the 2008 recession and this is that the 2008 recession was a broadly shared recession, whereas this is very specific to industries that were most impacted by the pandemic and individual communities most impacted by the pandemic. So the plan for relief is really different. You really want to target relief on the economic side towards the industries that have been most affected. I think the first that come to mind are restaurants, bars, hospitality industry, and tourism here in North Carolina, where we know that the pandemic has made it impossible for many of those industries to operate at their full capacity. We know they're going to come roaring back once we get all the vaccines into arms and we're able to get back to our new normal, but we got to help them get on their feet. And we also got to think about businesses that historically have had a hard time getting access to capital and to counseling and support. Mostly these are women and Black-owned businesses here in North Carolina, what we call historically underutilized businesses. We started a program last year called the Retool Program, which offered grants to these programs, but we want to expand that, make it bigger, and actually the bill that was passed today in the General Assembly includes an additional $8 million for that program. It's ideas like these that are going to be really targeted so that we can grow and rebuild more quickly than we did in the previous recession. How are we going to do compared to our neighbors? It's hard to say, but our goal is going to be that we get there quicker.
It's a big job ahead. Lee Lilly, the governor's director of the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery. Thanks for your time and your insight, and good luck to you. Thanks for listening, and a little plug. You can listen to complete WRAO newscast in podcast form. Subscribe to WRAO News Daily wherever you listen to podcasts. We post 5 newscasts each weekday and 2 on the weekends. You'll get all the news, weather, and sports you would get on TV in audio form. Just search WRAO News Daily. For the Coronavirus News Brief, I'm David Crabtree.